Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib of Michigan, one of the most unapologetic progressive voices in the House, sat across from a panel that included economist Dr. Darrick Hamilton, a leading scholar on racial economic inequality, alongside witnesses like Mr. Moore, who apparently believes Americans have never had it better, a claim that would certainly surprise the millions choosing between groceries and rent this month. While Republican leadership continues to push tax cuts for those who need them least, Tlaib pressed the panel on what real economic dignity looks like.
With that, the chair now recognizes the gentlelady from Michigan, Ms. Tlaib, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As a good colleague that I am, Congresswoman Sylvia Garcia had a question. I'm going to ask all of you yes or no, since we have a cutoff. But Mr. Brooks, do you believe affordability is a hoax? Yes or no?
Well, it definitely exists. No? It exists. I've seen it happen.
Okay, Mr. O'Leary. Is affordability a hoax? Is it a hoax, affordability? Is it a hoax? Yeah, we know somebody that keeps saying that.
No.
Okay. How about you, Mr. Moore?
Affordability is higher now. Affordability is higher now than any time in the history of the United States.
Yep. Dr. Hamilton?
It's not a hoax.
Okay. I also like to bring in my district. Detroit just passed the RX program. It's an incredible program where it's cash assistance to new mothers in our community. And combating poverty in our country has been really challenging. It's been kind of bizarre to understand, but the more I'm here, I understand that, studies by Harvard, for instance, says 65% of working age renter households struggle to pay for basic necessities after paying their rent. It just keeps going up. It's not even going down. I mean, study after study. So, Dr. Hamilton, do you see a role in direct assistance in providing financial stability, addressing affordability crisis, and promoting what you call authentic freedom?
Yes, it's power. Those studies, those interventions and the studies that accompany those interventions demonstrate that people were able to do a lot more from the simple intervention of cash.
I sat down with homeless youth, and that's what they told us. We understand you want to give us housing and everything, but we also we need to go to work. We need gas money, all these kinds of things. My economic dignity for all agenda encompasses the baby bonus, the child allowance, a monthly payment to adults that builds on such research that Harvard was talking about in regards to cash assistance being more impactful. And so, zooming out, Dr. Hamilton, you noted that in your outcomes that you see today, including affordability crisis and massive inequality, are a result of concentrated economic and political power. And that's what I feel like my colleagues don't have the courage to take on. And so I recently introduced a resolution calling on Congress to end the political economic dominance of wealth, of the wealthy few, halt the subsidiaries and the tax advantages that concentrate economic power, and reinvest in the needs of the American people. So, Dr. Hamilton, if we are really serious about addressing concentrated economic power, the affordability crisis, how would you think differently about public policy? And what policies, like taxing the rich, which is incredibly popular across the board, go ahead and poll all kinds of districts that will tell you to tax the rich, rebuilding labor movement, breaking up monopolies and promoting democratic forms of ownership to displace corporate power. Should we prioritize in thinking about those kinds of policy?
I mean, we obviously need to facilitate the collective right to bargain, the ability for labor to formulate and be able to negotiate the conditions of their workplace. That's a good place to start. The taxing the rich not only offers additional public resources, it curtails some of that political power.
Yeah, it's fairness too. I mean, most of the people we want to tax, we're subsidizing their workers' health insurance, food assistance. I mean, it's kind of like this game of you're not going to pay your workers enough, but the public is going to give you subsidiary, you're going to pay less in taxes, we're going to give you tax breaks and giveaways. And by the way, we'll cover the health insurance and food assistance programs that your workers need to survive.
And if I may, I'll say something, and I'll try to be brief. I know this doesn't get said in this room a lot. We need inclusive economic rights.
That's right.
We talk about political rights, civil rights, social rights, cultural rights, but at the end of the day, if you don't have a baseline level of resource, you're not able to engage in a transaction. You're either at the whim of somebody's charitable regress or the vulnerability of their exploitation.
It's exhausting. It's like survivor mode. Yep. It's crumbs.
So what we're talking about when we talk about guaranteed income, when we're talking about baby bonds, when we're talking about Medicare for all, it's simply a baseline level of resource so that people will have the ability to compete and engage.
I mean, my colleagues easily press the button for tax breaks for the wealthy, the corporations, but they don't seem to want to do it for our families. And I mean it. I'm not saying this as some sort of gimmick. I really believe this is the only way we can combat affordability crisis, poverty. And Dr. Hamilton, I would love your opinion on my Public Banking Act. Public banking is something that I think we need to really explore. North Dakota is a great example, but keep writing about it. Keep, trying to push, again, the fact that we need public banking in our country.
Have at it with
Time
markets,
has
as
expired.
long as people have a
Gentlelady's time
baseline
has
level in
expired.
which to engage.
agree.
Thank you, Doctor. Gentlelady's time has expired. The gentleman from Florida.
In a hearing room where the word affordability is too often treated as an abstraction, a talking point to be debated rather than a crisis to be solved, Congresswoman Tlaib did something deceptively simple. She asked real questions and demanded real answers. When Mr. Moore sat before that panel and declared that affordability is at an all-time high in the United States, he wasn't speaking to the 65% of working-age renters who, according to Harvard's own research, can barely cover basic necessities after making rent. He wasn't speaking to the young mothers in Detroit who need the RX program just to stay afloat. He was speaking to an ideology, one that has convinced itself that the economy is working because the stock market is up and corporate earnings are strong. That is not an economy. That is a scoreboard for the wealthy. And this is where the broader picture comes into focus. Dr. Darrick Hamilton made a point today that deserves to be repeated in every committee room, every editorial board, and every Sunday morning talk show in this country. Without a baseline level of economic resources, civil rights, political rights, and social rights are incomplete. They are, as he put it, crumbs. You cannot meaningfully participate in a democracy if you are one paycheck away from eviction. You cannot exercise freedom if your choices are between feeding your children and filling your gas tank. Now, Congresswoman Tlaib laid out a policy framework: baby bonds, child allowances, public banking, taxing the ultra-wealthy that her critics will predictably dismiss as radical. But let's examine who is actually being radical here. Is it radical to suggest that a corporation paying its CEO 400 times what it pays its average worker should not also receive taxpayer-funded subsidies? Is it radical to propose that the wealthiest nation in the history of the world should guarantee its citizens a basic floor of economic security? Or is the truly radical position the one we have quietly accepted for decades, that millions of Americans should work full-time and still not be able to afford a roof over their heads? The Republican response to this crisis has been and continues to be tax cuts for those at the top and austerity for everyone else. We saw it under the Trump administration's 2017 tax law, which delivered nearly $2 trillion in benefits overwhelmingly skewed toward corporations and the wealthiest Americans. We are seeing it now, as the same voices that championed those giveaways lecture working families about personal responsibility. And it is the single greatest obstacle to meaningful economic reform in this country. What Dr. Hamilton called inclusive economic rights is not a new idea. It echoes FDR's Second Bill of Rights. It echoes Dr. King's Poor People's Campaign. It echoes what progressive economists have argued for generations, that a society is only as free as the material conditions it guarantees its most vulnerable members. The question has never been whether we can afford to do this. The question has always been whether those in power are willing to. And today, Rashida Tlaib stood in that hearing room and made it painfully, unmistakably clear. They are not yet. But the conversation is shifting. The data is undeniable. And the American people across every district, every demographic, every political boundary are ready for an economy that works for them, not above them.